Okay, so we've got a 1998 Chevy S-10. It's got the pass lock security system light that just comes on and stays on. You literally can leave the key on for a week and it'll just stay on constantly and never goes out. This is an issue I've seen very little about. As a matter of fact, nothing about until just today. I saw an article and it kind of led me back to something I'd looked at previously. And so I'm going to kind of go through what happened here. So a little history on this truck. It started out, I bought this truck and it actually was supposed to just have an ignition switch problem. You turn the key on and it'd try to crank over. That was a couple of crossed wires on the clutch pedal. So we got that lined out right away, and then come to find out that actually the engine was locked up. So it was trying to crank, but I actually thought the starter was bad, replaced the starter. Guys, if somebody's telling you there's just some small little issue with a vehicle, but you can't actually see it do it, don't buy it. This truck started out with $750, and I've got over $2,500 in it now. So this process of elimination stuff gets really expensive, especially when you're dealing with electrical issues. So I'm gonna kind of go over what we ended up dealing with on the truck and what all we've replaced, and then ultimately show you the solution of what we did to fix that pass lock security system. Okay, to start out, this truck had the ignition switch problem I was talking about. That was the clutch pedal that was wired incorrectly. And yeah, when you turned the key on, it would engage the starter. The starter would just continue to crank until you turned the key off. The truck would never start. After I got that fixed, I replaced fuel pump on it, replaced the starter on it. I basically unfroze the engine because it had been sitting for a long time. So I basically just poured transmission fluid down the cylinder walls, let it sit for a while, basically push started it and got the engine freed up. I thought that it had compression, but I didn't actually run a real compression check on it until working on it for several months actually. So after running a real compression check on it, there was no compression. So I pulled the engine out. As you may know, these two little 2.2 liters are actually kind of hard to find engines for, even rebuilt. It was going to take a couple of months. So I just went ahead and replaced the head, put it all back together. And I was able to get it to start up, but it would start and die. So hence we started with the pass lock security. So what it was doing is you turn the key on. At first, if the battery's been disconnected, the light wouldn't come on. But as soon as you turned the key on and left it for a couple of seconds, pass lock security light would come on and it would stay on and it would never go out. So then you'd have the whole situation where the truck would start for a second or two, then die. And you'd have to turn the key back off, turn it back on, and it'd go through the whole thing again. It just never would stay running. So another issue that I had, the dome light wouldn't work, and the little bell that rings when you have the key in the ignition and the door open was not working. So chasing out a bunch of wires, I know you know how frustrating that can be. I've changed the BCM, I've changed the ECM 3 times. Even sent an ECM off to get the VATs deleted from it. That did make it to where the truck would start, but I still had no dome light. The security light stayed on. The high beam light wouldn't work. The high beams would work on the truck, but the actual light in the dash would not come on. So one of the items that I had worked on previously, and for a short term got the vehicle to work, I literally just took the back side of the fuse box under the truck, under the hood. Took that apart. And of course you see here, somebody's messed around with wiring here. I checked all that wiring. It's got good contacts, even though it's a real messy job here. But that doesn't even actually go to the pass lock that I know of. It's these wires here that go to the pass lock for power. That actually checked out. And the problem is I could never see if I was getting a connection here when the whole thing was all together. But when I took it apart one time, the truck would start and run, worked for a few days, and then it went back to doing its same old thing. So I've seen a new video where a guy was talking about his lowered vehicle being corroded on those terminals. Mine aren't really corroded too bad, but I did take the thing back apart again, sprayed it with some electrical cleaner, blow it dry and all that. Put it all back together. As you can see, it's not even completely back together yet, but that's actually got it fixed. It'll start and run, and the dome lights, as you see, work. Not sure about the high beam light. Now it comes on and stays on, but it is what it is. At least the thing will run and drive. The high beams do work. Another thing, this truck had a different gauge cluster in it. As you can see, I've purchased a few of those. So it came out with when I got it, it had this one here that just has the speedometer, no tack. And so I went to a salvage yard, bought another one with a speedometer and no tack. And I was worried that that was somehow causing the pass log. Maybe it wasn't reading the right gauge cluster. So I had somebody look it up, and this truck was supposed to have a tack in it. So as you can see, it now has a gauge cluster with a tack. The problem is, even though this came from the United States, my gauge cluster reads oil pressure in kPa, not PSI. The temperature is in Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So it runs at 100 degrees. And then the odometer is in kilometers, not in miles. I don't exactly know how I ended up with a gauge cluster like this, but it came out of the same year model. The gauges all work, and I believe I have the other issues dealt with. So I guess I'm just dealing with that too. So that's what we've got. Hope that helps people. Like I said, I've spent a lot of money on this truck trying to fix this issue and chased down a bunch of stuff that weren't the problem. And a lot of stuff, the whole relearn thing doesn't work for this. The little diode that you put in down under the dash doesn't work for this. It is most likely that plug under the firewall, or under the hood, under the fuse block. So again, I hope this helps you guys.